it's worthless.
Okay, so, sorry, do that again?
Okay,
That
so
was on the Viking?
this is what Viking has on their top of the lines. It's an absolutely worthless buttonhole machine. It works on lightweight fabric, but when it's going over like heavy seams, it hiccups, so your beading is not the same size on both sides, and you just ruin the buttonhole.
Right.
So you don't want a Viking. A lot of people like Viking, but I call that the hobby machine.
Really?
People that really aren't into sewing. It's a nice machine, but care for it. This is Pfaff, which is now made by the same company. And what you want is a buttonhole foot that has like a slider thing on it. And what it does is it counts the number of times it moves over, and your beading on both sides will be the same. But Pfaff doesn't have a leveler plate like this, like Bernina and now Janome has with their new top of the line. This is semi-automatic. What happens on the Janomes and the Brothers, you pull down a little lever, and it's kind of like automatic. You put a button in here, and then you pull this lever down, and when it taps this thing, when it moves back and forth, it knows to go backwards. So this is nice, but it's also nice on Janome because it has a leveler. So what you do is you place your thick fabric, like you're suiting, between this leveler, and actually your feed dogs are feeding this stable plate on the bottom and not this uneven fabric. So that way you get even buttonholes. So here's Bernina's. Bernina, all their feet are hand tooled. They're very nice. And what this does, instead of having like a little wire that counts the number of times this wheel inside turns, or a lever that comes down, it has a crystal eye that it looks into, so it knows when to reverse. And so Bernina makes the nicest buttonholes, and I think it does it the nicest. Yeah. This comes out. This is the regular buttonhole, but when you're doing something like that, and I'll show you how that works, the leveler makes it feed evenly. So let's come on over to the Bernina. This is nice because they just fit in.
And you said this was your $15,000 machine?
This is now $13,000. So I'm going to feed it over this heavy seam, and you can try this on other machines and hook up. When I first got my first Bernina in 1998, the machine I wanted, and come over here to the screen, over here.
So we can see.
You can see. Instead of putting a number, you don't really have to know what size this is. You just go here, and you put it on your screen, and you move it, the line. And that's a 20 millimeter button, so it's close. So once you get the size, and on this machine, you know, sometimes you have like a real fat button, and when you do the size, the slit isn't big enough for the buttonhole. This model, the first one, you can change the width of it, which is not many. I think Bernina is the only one that does that.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, which is nice. So I'm going to reset it. And so now that I have all these buttonholes. Pfaff has more beautiful buttonholes, but this does buttonholes better. I wish I had the Pfaff buttonholes on here, but this has a nice one. This one does corded buttonholes, which you can feed that gimp thread in there. I won't do that tonight. You just feed it. If you were to do that, you would feed the buttonhole, the gimp through here, and then feed it through here, and then you'd have the gimp on either side, and it would stitch over either side. And when the buttonhole's done, you just pull the gimp through and cut it at the end. So you have corded buttonholes. So I won't do that tonight because I want to show you the embroidered version that I did on my machine. So I consider myself one of the experts in Bernina. I do things with this machine that people at Bernina haven't done before.
Right.
Yeah, so. And I'll show you another thing I figured out.
But they haven't offered to hire you yet?
They don't pay that well. When I wrote for them, the articles, there was little or no compensation. So I go, you know, I have too much. I don't have that much time. It took a long time. So now,
They can take for granted people
Yeah.
like you who do it for your own fun
Yeah.
and give it to them.
yeah, they wanted everything for free. Okay, so now that I have it set, the size set, I just turn it on.
Wow, it even comes down that top.
And it will do perfect buttonholes over that seam. And you can see how heavy that is. I brought the jeans because if any machine won't do a buttonhole, it won't do it on this machine.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So, so I cut the thread. And look at that over that seam.
Wow.
The Viking will not do that. I
That's
guarantee you.
unbelievable.
Yeah, so the perfect. But I wanted even more perfect buttonhole than that because Marcia showed us those hand stitch buttonholes. So if you look at my